Hi, my name is Benedict Fritz, and I am a programmer and co-designer of TumbleSeed.
So tell us about what you're showing with TumbleSeed here at Nindies.
Sure. So TumbleSeed is a rolly roguelike, is what we call it. It's a game about rolling a seed from the bottom of the mountain to the top of a mountain. And along the way, there are lots of seed powers that you unlock as you go to kind of combat whatever the randomly generated mountain throws at you. And so we're showing it here at the Nindies event. We're doing some really cool stuff with HD Rumble, where you can kind of feel which side of the vine the seed is rolling on. And so the way that you control the game is there's a vine, and you're controlling either side, left side up and down, right side up and down with the dual sticks. And as you kind of change the angle of that slope, the seed rolls along with it. And so it's kind of this indirect control mechanism. And so as that seed is rolling, we're kind of changing the rumble and which side it's on, and we're also changing the texture of the rumble to reflect which seed power you're using.
And what games kind of inspired you to make this?
Sure. The two biggest inspirations are definitely Ice Cold Beer, aka Zeke's Peak. It's an old 1980s arcade cabinet that was about rolling a marble up a wooden board that had a lot of holes in it. And we kind of discovered it at this arcade, and we fell in love with it, and it was kind of, why haven't people made more games like this? You know, there was Doom, and then there was the first-person shooter, and all of the games that came after that. And there was Ice Cold Beer, and no games really followed that legacy. And so we're kind of trying to carry that balancing gameplay forward and kind of do unique things that you can only do on a digital version with TumbleSeed. And the other big game that inspired us, I'd say, is a lot of roguelikes, but kind of Spelunky is kind of the big model that we look to in terms of the game's structure, in terms of how you progress, in terms of just how we deal with random generation, enemies, that sort of thing, and how you kind of use your powers, your seed powers that you unlock to kind of work your way up and kind of fight against what the mountain's throwing at you.
And this game's going to be available on multiple platforms, but you're showing it here today on Switch. Can you talk about developing for Switch and, like you mentioned, the HD Rumble, how you feel about the Joy-Cons and developing for Switch?
Developing for Switch has been great. I mean, it's been relatively painless, and we use Unity, so a lot of the kind of heavy lifting has come down to Nintendo and Unity working together to make sure that everything works great, and they have, and it has been working fantastic. So for us, it's been a relatively easy process. And working with the Joy-Cons is great. The HD Rumble feels fantastic, and whenever I sit back down on my keyboard after like testing it out a bit, I always like expect my keyboard to start rumbling. And so it kind of becomes this like, you know, this extra sense. You know, you have audio, you have visuals, and all of these things, and controls, and all of these things kind of work together to create the experience of a game. And to add this extra sense of like touch is really interesting, and actually kind of hooks deeper into your brain than you think, and then you start kind of missing it when it's not there.
I think one of the things that really stands out about your game is the art style, and it's almost like it makes it feel like, oh, this is a nice, cushy, easy game, but it's insanely hard. Can you talk about how you're balancing this inviting players to play versus being really tough at the same time?
Yeah, that kind of combination of colorful and challenge is something that we feel like Nintendo is kind of the standard bearer of that combination, and we really, you know, it's kind of a thing that we wish that there were more of, or kind of games that are colorful and are kind of, just kind of embody like a gentle theme, but at the same time are extremely challenging. And so, we kind of make what we want to see in the world, and so we kind of worked on making a game that combines those two things. And then we reached out to Nintendo because it seems like, you know, like I said, they're kind of the ones who have done that in the past, and they're kind of the standard bearers of that combination. And so to be on the platform, it feels like there's kind of a natural audience of people who understand that that's a combination that works, and is a combination that's fun, and is a combination that can produce some great games.
And, how long is a playthrough of TumbleSeed going to take?
Sure. So it's a permadeath structure, a roguelike structure, so you're starting at the bottom of the mountain every time. And to get to the top, it takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes. Speedruns go a lot faster. And then there's also some secret stuff, which we're not really talking about, but it's in the game that'll increase the length even more. But in terms of getting good enough to the point where you can do a run in 30 or 40 minutes, that's hours and hours of getting better.
And, like you mentioned, this is a roguelike. How many different powers or power-ups or upgrades are you guys going to have in it?
We've got more than 30 right now, and so, a lot of different combinations, like there's the bomb seed, which kind of plants a bomb, then big explosion, but there's also the bounce berry, where you can then kind of bounce into the air and avoid the explosion while all the enemies beneath you kind of explode. And so it's not only that there's more than 30, it's that then they also combine in really interesting ways and kind of provide a lot of different strategies in terms of how you're trying to tackle all the obstacles in front of you.
It's a really unique roguelike because I don't know if I've seen any other gameplay mechanics like this. How long did it take you guys to figure out, yes, we're going to use the analogs for this?
The analog part was probably the easiest part of it. The hardest part was definitely how do we take this toy of kind of balancing and moving around and turn it into a full game where it's not just like a toy where you kind of balance and you're like, okay, I get it, I'm done, where you just like crank up the difficulty to an insane extent. So figuring out the seed power system and the planting system and those things where kind of the rolling is how you interact with the world, since you need to roll over a plot of soil to plant something. That took a very long time and a lot of painful prototyping and going down some crazy routes that did not end up working out. But in the end, we kind of found this system of this planting and these powers of these different seed types that really kind of works cohesively, where it all kind of ties back into the rolling and it really feels like a cohesive whole.
Awesome. And how much is the game going to cost? When does it come out?
It's coming out this spring. We haven't quite decided on a price. It'll be between $15 and $20, probably somewhere in there, kind of, typical indie game pricing.
That's awesome. And do you guys have anything else planned after this, or are you guys just trying to ship this one right now?
We're just focusing on this game right now.